Yes, once again, I have jumped into a live stream without warning anybody. And I do that for your benefit. Because I know you guys love watching me so much. Stream without... No, there we go. Okay. Now I can see the chat. However, I don't know where I'm going to set this stupid tablet. All right. Cool. Hold on. Let me... Can I chat? Okay, there we go. So I'll just wait for everyone to mosey on in. Waiting on the people to come on in. We just got started. Come on, people. Get your friends. Bring them on in. I'm going to get my inspiration ready. And we're going to talk about the new turbofan. Oh, well, the new stubby V5 rear drive. 32,000 RPM, 170 millimeter, 22 blade high pass EDF engine. That's what we're doing today. Wait, no, I know PXD is gonna jump on. I know you're going to. If you're not already here. Waiting on the people. You all know you want to be here for this. So, let's get her done. Come on, you know where I live, click that button. All right. We're getting ourselves set up here. Gosh, there's fans everywhere. This should be an OnlyFans page. Right? That would be awesome. It'd probably piss off a lot of perverts, though. They'd be like, what's this? Oh, man. This isn't what I signed up for. We're going to be talking about... Today we're going to be talking about the fan that I am building. And how it compares to the front drive version. Get rid of this stuff here. Because it's a rear drive system. So this is the motor mount here for the front drive system, which is basically what I was using for testing purposes, of course, when it came down to doing the metal gears, which turned out so wonderful since they were from China. So we're not going to be doing that again. I'm just going to find a shop and have them CNC'd and like mortgage my house so I can get it done. Well, mortgage my landlord's house. I wonder if we can do that. But what we've done is we've kind of redesigned the whole planetary gear system from the precision one that I was doing for the purposes of metal printing. So we have smooth, lockable indexing teeth. But the problem was, we all know that we were spinning it up, and we were, when I was doing this out of PETG or even nylon 6, I was losing these gears. They'd tear each other up. Now this is rotating really, really, really well, even right now. The problem is there's a closed gap on this. We already know this. I'm just reiterating this for people who may be just joining us. So when I try to throw this together, the problem that we encounter is the fact that the printer that they printed it on, they didn't give me the proper offsets for it. And it's hard to design something when you're trying to print it in metal on a printer you don't have here because you're trying to use a service. And we ended up getting this closing gap that I just almost have completely ground down because I've been like running it until I can grind it down because I'm going to use this son of a it cost me $114. So you know, maybe it's just me. You know, welcome, Anthony. I'm glad you're here. But I've heard this term a lot. And can somebody tell me what the shit a sigma is? I mean, maybe I'm just old. Like, explain it down in the comments. What does that say? I don't even know if that's a question. What is that? Can you say that again? So we got Dip and Anthony in our first two. Not surprised. You're going to have to rephrase the question, to be honest with you. We're talking about turbine engines. I could give two flying fucks about Zelensky. So America first. That's all there is to it. America first. Then we'll start worrying about everybody else's shit. Hell, we shouldn't even be worrying about it anyway. We need to worry about us. So many, the homeless, the veterans that are on the street, the crime, everything else. That's what we need to worry about. So, Zelensky, sorry for your luck. But no more American money. Going back to the taxpayers where it belongs. Unless you guys don't want your money back and you want to give it to this so you feel good about the cause when all you're doing is sending money over to somebody and then the kickbacks go back to the Dems and then the Dems pay their freaking $1 million freaking mortgage payments. That's what's happening with the money that's going to Zelensky. So we can just drop that subject altogether because it's irrelevant. But back to what I'm talking about, the turbofan. Sorry, the stubby fan. The turbofan sitting over there. It's a bit smaller. Doesn't use a high-pass fan. 170 millimeter. Still printing the fan casing, which is this little bad boy right here that goes over it. You are looking at this right here, which is the fan stator. And that's this one on the older one. And this is a bit of a different design because the bearing is now, you know, kept in place. Here. There you go, little Zelensky. How's that for you? Sit and spin, Zelensky. It's a smooth ride, I promise. So, I know there's a lot of Ukraine sympathizers out there, and if they jump in the channel and they hear me talking like this, they're going to leave. And that's good, because I try to keep good company. All right. So let's get started. What are we doing? We've seen this turbine right here with the front drive system, which is now going to be perfect for the gravity mitigation, weight mitigation of the Cuddy Black in large scale. There'll be two of these, one in front of the other in the middle of the Cutlass Black's main fuselage. So that's going to push down and give us our thrust mitigation, or gravity mitigation, weight mitigation, whatever you want to call it. Gravity assist, if you want to call it. Whatever. Use whatever term makes you feel better. The idea, though, is to make sure that I lift the weight of the entire system, because the ship is bigger than, well, it's like 5 feet long. And you've seen the Cutlass Black if anyone's played Star Citizen. So while that's not the only application for this, it is one of them. And that allows me to put the 4 EDF engines and the articulating thrusters that are on the back of the Cuddy Black. And those will work in conjunction with these to give you your realistic looking flying ship. That's the whole point, is that you want that realism in a ship like that, including the landing gear, the back door that comes down, so on and so forth. So yeah, there's that. We got any other people on today? Nobody wants to ask questions? Nobody's curious about what they're looking at? Yep. I guess everyone's at work. I don't know. Come on, people, jump on in. We'll get into this. Show you what we're doing. Because we're probably 2 days away from a spin up of the new version of this fan. So yeah, about 2 days, because I mean the only thing I have left is the carrier. The carbon fiber rods will come in, not the carrier, the motor index shaft that has 4 legs that go down into the planetaries. And that has carbon fiber rods that go through the whole thing, and then it indexes to the motor through this collet here, which is attached on the back of the carrier, or the index that goes in there, for the planetary. What basically rotates the exterior planetary, so I can get that 4-to-1 gear ratio on the center sun gear. This has a hexagonal input, which travels basically through the shaft and the fan, giggity. And then that, with the bearing set in the stator, this will obviously sit still, will set in here, like so. And then this will set on the back, and the index shaft will connect all of them together, like so. And then the motor will sit over that, and with the carrier, or with the rotator that goes on the motor, will attach to the carrier that spins the planetaries, and this will bolt to the body. So the entire system will be, let me just do it this way because it's easier, so I can kind of show you what's going on. This will bolt to the body, and the whole system, once the index shaft is in there, will sit inside either whatever plane you wish to design for this motor, or for this turbine, or you can put the ductwork on it, which is basically the ductwork you see sitting back there. That's what I use for testing as far as airflow and everything else. So that's where we're at on this. And this was the test article. As you can see, everything's still put together. It can still be adapted for rear drive, because I designed a system to do it with nylon 6, which is pretty rigid, but I think it'll still break unless it's done out of some alloy. We are going to be CNCing this system because the gears are more robust. I don't have to worry about them failing. And even with PETG, I think I'm going to get past my half throttle that I would normally not get past with this one, using this gear system here, because the only one that fits in there at this point is anything I print from either PETG or nylon 6, or I want to try peak, but I don't know if the bamboo can hit 350, I think, Celsius, what's required for that. It might be able to. I haven't tried it yet. So look up the specs and make sure. Because if I can steer away from CNCing anything for this motor so that I can get the STL files for you, so the only thing you have to do is buy, you know, some 6204 bearings, and it only takes one, and you're good to go. And your Flip Sky motor, which is for a skateboard, that's a 6374, 48 volt. A 150 amp ESC is what I'm using. This only requires 80 amps, but you want that power on the ESC for those spikes, for those amp spikes that you're going to get because of the force that you're moving with this. You're moving 0.665 kilograms of air per second. And the projected thrust ratio or the projected thrust output is 55 pounds on a unit that, with the batteries and the ESC, will hold basically be around 7 pounds. So you figure the thrust to weight ratio is 4 to 1, a little over 4 to 1 for the engine itself. If you put a body around this and it's like, I don't know, 10 pounds or whatever for a carbon fiber body and some gear, you don't have to worry about the batteries because that's included in the weight of what I'm doing here. Then you're still looking at a 3 to 1, 2.5 to 3 to 1, which is better than most military jets. The F-22 unloaded is just a little over 1 to 1, and when it's loaded down, it's under 1 to 1. It's like 0.86 to 1. So even the F-22 Raptor doesn't have the thrust to weight ratio that this engine has. It's just bigger, and that's why it requires a runway. And they have, of course, the afterburner. But the point is, the idea is to make an efficient electric, big EDF engine that you can get the components off of Amazon for and basically build it yourself at home. And the STL files I'm going to make available to you. I have a Buy Me a Coffee link and a Patreon. I usually put them up on the shop and the Buy Me a Coffee link when I do STLs. The Shrike concept drone, that one's up there with all the components list of stuff that you need to build that 70 millimeter EDF drone. And this one is going to be up there as well. And I think I only put the STLs up for like $3. But then that's only because I'm spending a lot of time and I'm trying to make a little bit of money so I can keep bringing you guys content, because this is expensive to do this kind of stuff. Not so much building the engine, because I'm trying to make it sort of an affordable engine for everyone, and so they can take their Schublers and send them back and make a car payment instead. I mean, the engine was, oh gosh, ESC was like 100, 110. This engine was 83. I put a 5 to 6 amp BEC in there that can handle 14.8 volt input. That's crucial. That's really good too, because it can still control the servos of the craft, and everything runs off of an independent battery. And it's a 14.8 volt LiPo with 850 milliamps. So you're gonna have plenty of power for your servos and your gear, running this ESC and then the BEC. So that's where we're at this point. Now we have more printing, a little bit more printing to do. And then when I come back to do another live, we're going to assemble this thing together. We're going to assemble it all together. We're going to get it on the stand. The stand, you probably can't, I don't know if you can see it from there. The stand is basically a sliding gantry kind of thing. And not gantry, just a sliding rig I set up that holds the ductwork on it. I can drop the fan in there, and then I can bolt it, the top half on, and strap it down. And then I have to chain it up. So I've got these bars to chain it here to the ever so accurate fish scale that I have on here. I need to get a load sensor, for crying out loud. But that's the ESC right there. And I do run an amp meter to make sure we're monitoring amps and we're monitoring voltage, just so everyone can see what's going on as the fan is operating. So with that said, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask, because I really want to get the input of the public on this, of the people who watch, and I want you guys to enjoy the upcoming content, because when we spin this up, with the other gear system, I could not get past half of the RPMs. I got literally to maybe half throttle, maybe a little bit over. And it was screaming, but it would always eat up that sun gear. It was just too soft, because we were using PETG, we were using nylon 6, we were using whatever materials I had available. And you can see, let me see if I can find a completed sun gear so I can help you compare. Okay, so this is a sun gear that hasn't been used. And you can see how the teeth are in great condition and everything. But what ends up happening with these is this. You get this flattening out of the teeth. The sun gear takes the brunt of the damage. And if you use a harder material like nylon 6, then it transfers that damage to the planetaries on the outside here. And if these are all nylon 6, then it transfers the damage to the ring gear. So once I get this ground down, and this is kind of like using lapping compound on a cylinder head valve. So it's kind of like what I'm doing right now, to close that gap so I can run it, because I want to run it regardless of what I go through to get it to work. I'm gonna run it. And the reason why is because our target RPM is 32,000. I've had one of these up to 15,000 to 18,000 RPMs. The PLA blade that I used before, when I ran it with a direct drive turbo motor, believe it or not, these are on Amazon, and they are very, very good motors for what they are. It's a standard prop motor. This one's 22.2 volts, but I was able to run that fan on one of the earlier versions. And when I ran it through the 150 amp ESC and dropped the timing to 11.5, it unlocked some torque in this baby that just spun that fan so fast and so hard that it blew up. In the aftermath, on my larger version, which is a very highly experimental system that I put together, that's the aftermath. And I was holding this thing when it happened. So this one's experimental because I had an exit aperture, I had an impeller inside. This one's running just standard low pressure turbine system, and that was for the purposes of helping alleviate torque on the motor. So as this would spin, it would push air through the low pressure turbine, which would cause pressure in there, which would help lighten up the fan's load on the motor. That was really the whole idea. And then of course you've got your exit aperture, so you can, play around with that, see if it helps. But all of those internal workings sort of caused a lot of drag in the linear flow of the motor. So at one point I had designed cases that went over this so that nothing was exposed like this, any of these hard points that would disrupt the flow. And what that did was it actually improved it to the point where, since I had caps that went over this to this point, and you had a ductwork right here, it would compress that air before pushing it out over. The high pass would compress it before pushing it out over and mixing with the impeller air that was coming out here. So that worked out well. It's something I may revisit in the future, but right now, one of the main concerns is making sure that the engine that I have and the gear system that I have driving it is able to spin the fan, and the force that's getting pushed back from the fan without blowing up the fan, without overheating the motor, and without overamping everything. At half throttle, and this is the fun part, I love this. At half throttle, I was pulling 11.5 amps. 11.5 amps on a 170 millimeter 22 blade high pass fan. You can't beat that. Now, as the RPMs increased, the amps increase, and they continue to increase exponentially based on the volume of air you're trying to push through. So this can get up to 115, 130 amps, and it's designed to handle that torque. And the reason why I chose this motor is because it was for skateboard, electric skateboard, because I was basically, after a while, overheating and burning up motors of this, you know, in the 22.2 volt range. It just couldn't handle it. So this is going to go on the turbo fan, which is just basically a smaller version of this whole thing, but it's more geared towards an afterburner. So it's more geared toward air compression through several stators and several stages. And it's already been printed. It's over there. We'll get to take a look at that in a little bit. So I had to go with a higher torque motor. And really, RC motors were, you can get them, but they get really pricey. And what I've seen with most of the EDFs out there, even the, is it JB Hobby or HB Hobby or something like that? Anyway, they're really good anodized red looking EDFs. And I don't know, they put out, you know, so many pounds of thrust. They say kilograms, pounds, doesn't matter. Same thing, in a sense. But this one will put out 55 pounds using that motor at 32,000 RPMs. So we've done the math, we've spun it up, we've seen this thing scream, but we never got past that half throttle mark because of the weakness of the FDM printed plastics. Because I designed, what I went ahead and did was what I usually do, and it's design the end product before the testing. So on this part here, I designed it for precision because I wanted smooth rotation. Now, you're going to hear some noise. You're going to hear some chatter out of this as it spins, but it is running Interflon paste, and I have the Interflon Thin Super, which will help. So that's going to spin pretty good, and I don't think you're going to hear that over the motor itself and the sound of the air coming out of this fan, because I can tell you right now it's got some power. Yeah. So it's gonna look cool spinning too, right? I have to stop it slow, otherwise it'll just torque the crap out of my drill. But basically what I'm doing to test spin everything is using the same index shaft that goes, or the same design of index shaft that goes through the fan, through the casing, and then through the sun gear. So, and one of the other things I wanted to point out, if I could, is, oh, I'm putting it on there first. Duh. There are, if you look here, these here are to keep, they hold 3mm screws, and they go around all the way around. And what they do is they sit on the other side of the bearing, which keeps everything from moving forward out of the stator casing, which is why there's a cap on the other end of the bearing. And that's so that the fan itself, when it's indexed in here, I'll probably CA glue it into place. And then once it's indexed into the sun gear, I don't think I'll CNC it, because I may have, well, not CNC it. I may CA, CA glue it. CNC, my head's everywhere. I'll probably CA glue it into place so that the fan and the rear shaft actually are connected. Worst case scenario, if something happens and I have to replace that, I can just take it apart and snap that sun gear off and then print another one and another index if I have to. I think the friction fit will be fine. We'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, fan comes off, goes towards the phone. We know we have to do something else. I may take the index at the tip that comes out, and I may reverse thread it, depending on the rotation of the fan. I may thread it to where I can put the cap on over this, thread it on so that it holds on and I don't have to worry about replacing a fan and the entire thing. Make it as modular as possible so that realistically you can keep using it, change parts if you need to make modifications, so on and so forth. So the idea is make it as modular as possible, and this is going to be one that I think one of my viewers especially is going to love. This is TPU. Okay, this is a TPU for the AMS on the Bamboo Lab X1 Carbon. It's extremely rigid, but has serious layer bonding. Serious layer bonding. I'll show you an example. I printed a rubber plane, single wall print with TPU from the AMS. And you're not breaking that. You're just not. It takes a carbon fiber rod that goes through, and it'll give me an organic aileron, which is going to be wonderful. Single wall print, and this thing is extremely rigid. Not to mention, it'll have the rigidity of that 4mm carbon fiber rod going through the wing, but it's also going to give you a bit of a natural dihedral as it's flying, which will be good for stabilization. The rest of the plane is also printed out of the exact same material. I have the entire wing printed. This is the body of the plane, and I still have some fitting to do. ESC's in there, batteries in there, wing sits here. This prop right here is also TPU. Okay, and I ran it on the P51 and it flew it. And I wrecked the entire P51 because that P51 just never worked. And this prop survived. While the plane was destroyed, the prop survived. So I pulled the guts out of the P51 and I just put it on here. So the whole plane is rubber. And you're like, well, that's going to move around in the air. And it won't, because it's rigid. It takes actually a lot to bend it. And considering that it's a glider, it's not going to be undergoing a whole lot of force. Then I think it's going to do just fine. And it's going to be a great experiment with AMS TPU, which is exclusively for the Bamboo Lab X1 Carbon, but I believe you could probably run their TPU through a regular printer or any other printer that you have, and I'm sure it would run just fine. But it was specifically designed for the AMS for the purposes of not getting stuck like traditional TPU would. So that would jam up the AMS on the Bamboo Lab. So other than that, that's where we're sitting right now as far as putting this new fan together. I've got this part to print, which is the outer casing. That's going right now. And then the index rod that goes through this here, and then the carrier that holds the carbon fiber rods that attach to the motor and the collet. And that will give me my completed fan. Rear drive, first rear drive fan, because most of the, well, all of the fans that I did previous were front driven, because I didn't want to have to completely take off the ductwork every time I needed to make a change. So what I did was I just said, okay, well, spin it from the front. It's going to be just like spinning it from the back, just reversed. So swap 2 wires and you're fine. But it gave me the opportunity to kind of experiment with the design. So you have your motor mount, you have your section that holds the planetary gear system with the smaller ring gears, or the smaller sun gears and everything else, this tiny stuff. And then your motor has that collet on it. Everything indexes into place, slides down into place. I run screws through here just to keep it steady, and then you spin your fan. And now this PETG fan is it's gone through a lot, and it's still in one piece, so it's really rigid. This is also PETG. Everything in this build is PETG. I found out because its dimensional accuracy is better than the PLA, especially when you're doing low tolerances for fitting. And the reason why I'm sticking with that is because I want to be able to go from the FDM side to the CNC side when I do, because I have to do some of these in metal, because they're going to be 3 times the size for my larger project. But there is going to be 4 of these motors for the drone, and that's for the Shrike XL. And the Shrike XL, you'll understand what I'm building if you check out the Shrike drone, concept drone playlist that I have. And it'll kind of give you an idea of what I was going for. So now we're going to do it big style. We're going to supersize it, per se. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be exciting to spin this up. And I know everyone's like, wow, that looks like, you know, simple gears. Well, yeah, they are. But they're going to be simple enough to where they're not going to give me any major problems. And these will handle the torque way better than the small teeth of these gears. I mean, look. Just look at the teeth difference. The engagement is 10 times what this is. And that's what I'm going for. Because I want to get past it. And this, if this works well, and this is CNC'd out of tool steel, and then I get everything done, and I have a re-oiler for it, then we're going to have a very reliable drivetrain for this fan. This TPU shaft will dampen vibration, but still be rigid enough to, and I'm telling you right now, you're not pulling this apart. This isn't going to break. If it does, I'll be surprised. Because you know how TPU bonds, and then you take something that they've made more rigid for the AMS, and you do a solid infill, while it's still slightly pliable, its layer adhesion is beyond anything I've ever seen. It is literally the strongest bonding I've ever seen on layer adhesion with this stuff. Super impressed with that. Now I know everyone's going, well, it's TPU. And Bamboo Lab may have actually designed it for the purpose of, we want to give them a TPU that they can use in the AMS. But it's not going to be soft like the traditional TPU. It can't be, not through the AMS. But the great part about that is with the added rigidity of that, you can get a PETG style solid part or even a PLA style solid part that isn't going to strip out or anything like that because it's too soft, but has just enough dampening in it for vibration, if there's any at all, which can keep the engine running smoother and a lot safer because the vibrations can't perpetuate, through the engine and cause any kind of major damage or strip a gear, things like that. Did I say perpetuate? Perpetuate damage. I used the wrong word. My apologies. So the idea is print, test, celebrate. Because this is going to be awesome. This is going to be some epic stuff.
Medicine man is here.
Oh, okay. I'll be right in. Hold on. I will be right back, guys. I have to answer the door. Just stare at my fan. I'm back, sorry. Had a delivery. Oh, what is this? Using some resin printed molds and nylon pellet. You know what? That is an excellent idea. That's an excellent idea. My name is Jeff. I love it. I can hear it in my head right now. You know what? I actually like that idea. So, since we have to send off, for the most part, parts to be either 3D printed or CNC'd, it would make sense to make a mold that I could injection mold some really good material on. What's up, dude? Sucks at gaming. I still can't call you that, man. Sags! That sounds better, man. Sounds like you're working with some equipment, right? Just call them sags. I did what work? I haven't done anything yet. I'm still printing. I'm just showing off all the parts right now that we've got finished. We've got the new motor mount. We've got the new planetary. We've got the new stator casing that's ready to go. Only spin it to mesmerize everyone. Subscribe, share, smoke a bowl, eat a Twinkie. All right, so yeah, that's where we're at. It's I'm printing a few of the last parts, and then we're gonna get things going. But yes, I want to get back to. It's hard to say. I want to get back to crippling depression. Had a really good idea. And it's one of those things as an engineer with ADHD that just kind of goes right over the top of my head. And I like that idea. You are just, it's like some of my other viewers that go, hey, maybe you should try this. I'm like, damn it, now I have to do it. So, yeah, I do like that idea. Resin printed molds and nylon pellets would work well. Do you think the resin printing, though, would stick to the nylon, or is there a specific type of resin that I should be using for that? You're also, okay, well, that explains the name and the fact that you know exactly what I mean by my name's Jeff. So yeah, we're on the same page. I love this kind of collaboration, you know? It's like the ADHDers, I think we're all connected more securely than the internet. And we just don't know it. We're just sharing information. We're quantum entangled, okay? That's all there is to it. It will depend on your ability to maintain the right pressure, temperature, and mold integrity. Buck, that is absolutely correct. But my question is, do I have them CNC the mold out of an alloy, or do we think that a resin printed mold, as crippling was was suggesting? You're working on a Jetpack project, would really like to collab. Oh yeah, heck yeah, man, we can collab. You're looking at 55 pounds of thrust per engine right here. Possibly more. And if we were to actually make this out of metal, you could push that even harder. So because the Shrike XL drone that I'm going to be doing is going to push us past, I mean, it's 220 pounds of lift just on that drone. So if you take all the gear out, conservatively, let's say 180 pounds. But the more RPMs you get out of the engine, the better. And then finding the failure point of the PETG is definitely going to be something that I have to work with. But my thought was, static thrust tests still can produce the load necessary to test the fan's integrity. So that's why I have it chained down. So if it's going to not survive the pounds of thrust that it does produce, the fan will explode. And then I'll know I have to do it in alloy. Well, I know that the overall output is 0.665 kilograms of air volume per second. I haven't tested any of you're dealing with the tensile strength of standard PETG, which is fairly good at this scale, even with the RPMs I'm pushing. If PLA could handle the 15,000 RPMs I threw at it and only failed at a little over 20,000, then I think the PETG is going to do well, depending on how much deformation we get at that RPM. So, yeah, the thrust on this, 55 pounds. We know the mass airflow, or the airflow mass per second. We basically, I'm looking at the challenge of that kind of force and how much heat I'm going to get off that motor. I agree with you. I mean, the only way it is commercially used is in Pepsi bottles. It doesn't make any sense to me. It could be a very, very rigid. I mean, can you imagine injection molding this stuff into the fan? If you forget layer adhesion, let's make a mold for this and just injection mold the whole thing. But we don't have to injection mold the whole thing because I already designed one to be CNC'd or injection molded or whatever you want to call it, where we have indexing blades. Each individual blade can be CNC'd or injection molded, depending on what you want to do. The hub can be done by itself. And all you have to do is basically find the lightest blade and then make them all match weight-wise. And then dynamically balance balance the hub. And then we're good to go. So I'd already thought about the idea of making this to where not only I could have this machined, but because it comes apart now, I can make the fan 3 times bigger. 3 times bigger. And then take a huge KV motor, not like a huge KV motor, but a huge high torque motor and run it through a 4-to-1 or a stackable 16-to-1. Right now, we're just going to stick with... I don't need that kind of RPMs for anything bigger than this, because that would just be way too much. But my goal was to not only share what I was making with everyone, but to make it to where if you wanted to build something like a big aircraft, like I've seen a guy that has done a really nice looking Harrier. But like I mentioned before, he had to spend 5,000 or more on this Schubler engine that goes in there. And it's only 120 millimeters. This is 170 millimeters. And you're using off-the-shelf components you can get from Amazon. That was the whole idea. I haven't seen the EcoFan. I'd have to check it out. But I mean, if you think about the price of this one compared to what you're going to get from them, I could probably give you more thrust at less price. And I know that sounds like a proposition from a prostitute, but it is what it is. So perfecting the design is key. And I know these legs look a little small, but these are for the purpose of basically just bolting to the casing. These index rods here index sections inside the gear casing, and that'll mitigate any torque on the legs. But once if this is made out of metal, I'm not going to have to worry about that at all. That's the kind of thing you do out of stainless. Yes. And how is that EcoFan? What is the thrust on that 120? I'm curious. I see my viewers have dropped off. We're talking about stuff that doesn't involve Gorilla Glue or something stupid, so we might not get a lot of attention today. But I am really curious about what your max thrust out of that 120 was. Because I want to see if I'm beating it at 55 pounds. And even if I'm not beating it at 55 pounds, I don't see it putting out 55 pounds. 8 kilograms? That's shit. That's less than half what I'm doing with this fan. I didn't know I was doing so well. That's pretty good. I mean, because I've only got this thing up to half throttle, and I've bent those steel bars that I have holding it in place. So, wow. That's insane. I didn't know they were that low. And they cost like as much as a Smart 4 II, I'm guessing. You know, like they're expensive. Are they not? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how much does the EcoFan 120 cost? It's a 110? Wow. I mean, that's pretty good for a 110. Yeah, I want to know the price of it, because I can tell you right now I'm going to beat it. But I really want to stick to as 3D printed as possible. Or even injection molded as possible. One of the main reasons I did this was so hobbyists could actually enjoy doing this and afford to do it, you know, on a budget like me. I mean, I'm on vet benefits, so I don't have like a whole bunch of extra, you know. I'm married, raising a family of 5, so it's like me being able to do this at all is because of the support that you guys give me. You know, it's all about, you know, and my brother was very involved in the point where he actually got me the X1 Carbon. And he don't have a lot of money either. He had to go get a personal loan for it, you know. And that's kind of what got me started in really producing this engine, because I was sitting on an Ender. The very first Shrike drone, the white one that you'll see in the playlist, was done on an Ender 3. And it flew great. But I was using analog ESCs. Now, then I switched over to D-Shot iFlight ESCs, and those cost me $300 just for the 4. And that was controlled by a SpeeDB F405 wing. And you're like, why a wing? Well, because the idea was to be able to turn it into a VTOL system eventually. Either an extendable airfoil or a built-in airfoil where it can land vertically, basically like a tail sitter, like the Javelin. There's a Javelin playlist. I got to get back into the Javelin, but I got to finish this motor first. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to partake of my very healthy Rockstar and a Twinkie. 400? That's not bad. I would have thought more. I know that Schubler's got some engines out there that are like really, really expensive. But still, 400 for one engine is kind of pricey. I will take note of that and check it out. I'm curious. Very curious. But I think As long as you're able to print, I thought it would be more. I thought it would be more too, Buck. I really did. I thought it would be like in the thousands, because most of their engines are. I'm opening a Twinkie. Sorry for the background noise. Oh, love Twinkie. This is sort of funny and embarrassing at the same time. I loved Twinkies when I was a kid. And I got older, stopped eating them. And then I watched Zombieland and I got right back into it. And I used to be the co-host on a radio show for a paranormal site. And I was Tallahassee. That's the name I chose because I just got through watching Zombieland. I'd never been the host of one of the hosts of a radio show. And basically, it was called the Stitch Witch Hour. And then this lady would come on, they would talk about the paranormal and this and that. And that would be like the voice of reason that kind of told everyone, it's like, well, maybe you're just high. Or, it's, they're like, aliens are real. You're from this star system. I'm like, really? I don't remember. So yeah. That was a fun show to do. Mainly because I was kind of the comic relief of the whole thing. But the one who started it, she got real political. And because the radio station that was, pushing it. Hi, Angie. How you doing? Is it Angie or Angel? Did I say that wrong? I see you changed your name. What happened between yesterday and today? She's like, not an angel. Just finishing up burying somebody. Twinkie. The only thing that'll survive a nuclear apocalypse and still give you all the sweet nutrition you need. I have low blood sugar, so I gotta load up. Everyone hates me for it. And I'm a lightweight on the cannabis too, so that makes people mad. They have to smoke 3 or 4 bowls or 8 joints just to get where they're going, and I take one little tiny hit and I'm done. The stuff I get one little bag, 7 grams, last me a whole month. Well, realistically, pusher puller, it's basically and or in a sense. So it depends on the application. The idea was to make this modular, so you could go, okay, I'm going to put this in an F-35 body that I'm going to build for it. I know what my external fan casing size is, so I know where my mounting points are, and then I know where to place it in the thrust ventry to get your intakes aligned properly and your output. And you can constrict that flow so that you can get more linear flow and lengthen it. Place the motor up here on the CG, and then you'll have that room to get more of a smoothing effect. Plus you can taper it down to get more thrust out of the rear of the aircraft. Or you can put it in cases and make a drone. And that's what Strike XL is going to be, is a big ass drone. And I'm going to have some fun with that one, because if it'll lift me, I'm going to be riding that thing around. In angle mode, not acro. Because I am not an acro pilot. I don't even have a set of goggles or a VTX to put on anything. I wish I did, I just can't afford to get it. Because they've made everything so expensive. They're like, ooh, a hobby, which shouldn't be that expensive. And then they make it super expensive because people want to do it. I mean, I guess that's capitalism, but realistically, you're killing a large revenue stream by not allowing people to get stuff that is going to be affordable. And it's almost like, you know, the elites. We can afford the big engine. Like I saw this big C-130 replica that the guy did, and I think he used Schubler motors in it. I don't remember. But if you take the price of each one of those engines, you could buy a car. And it's just a large scale, huge, beautiful C-130. And it works great, but you're using engines that were made. I'm trying to develop the engine, like I said, with off-the-shelf components, so that everyone can enjoy it instead of having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, not only on the carbon fiber work you'd have to do on an aircraft that size, but help make it a foamy with some, balsa wood, inlays or whatever to make it stronger, or carbon fiber inlays if you're going to build a plane that you're going to put that engine in. And I guarantee you it's going to work good. Because you're going to have a thrust-to-weight ratio that's going to beat any engine in that class. Guaranteed. Especially for 3D printed engine. Yeah, I'm not going to acro. It's going to stay in angle mode, man. Like 3 degrees. That's it. Because I have a feeling if I go anything past that, it's just going to... I'm going to fall off of it. And it's not going to lift me because I'm 6'4" and 300. But I do have a test pilot. I don't know if he's on watching right now. I think he's around 180. But I promised that I would keep him below parachute height. And at a slow speed. So once we get to that point where it's just, and he has the property where we can have a runway, where we can fly anything we want. We've got the airspace for it all set up. We have a ceiling we can get up to. It's clearance for ultralight, so we basically have a good ceiling to get to. But I'm not putting anybody on it unless they have a parachute. Axial Eris, the beam that comes with it in cheap analog 5.0 USB RC. Oh, okay. Huh. I'll have to check into that. I've just been using like BDB. Because again, I was trying to keep it into the realm of possibilities for anyone who had a 3D printer and was going to build it around. Because if you can build an FPV drone, if you've got the resources to build an FPV drone, and you got a 3D printer, you could take that money for the FPV drone, which is going to be super expensive anyway, because it's a hobby we like, so they raise the prices. And you could build these motors and still do some really cool stuff. And a lot of people ask me, what was the purpose of Shrike? It wasn't, how is that more efficient than a bladed drone? I want to tell you about it. It does say concept in the title, so we'll start there. And then we'll have the conversation. So, yeah, the idea is eventually I'm going to make a quad that I'm going to fly around on. The engine will be about 2 to 3 times bigger than what it is now. And that is going to be something that I'm going to ride. Not initially. I'm going to be doing it remotely, of course, to make sure everything works well. But it'll be something I ride. So something the size of a quad, like something you take in the mud, but you're hovering off the ground at about 4 to 5 feet. And it won't go down lower than that unless you're in landing mode. And you're able to go up to no higher than 200 feet. And that'll keep you safely below the 400-foot FAA ceiling of 400 for something that size. So that keeps us in a safe realm of testing. Of course, I'm not going to go up to 200 feet because that's a long fall if something goes wrong. I'm going to stay probably 5-10 feet above the ground. I'm going to be wearing the stuff that you get on a dirt bike, that some kind of armor, so if something happens, I'm going to protect myself. It will be armed with a drogue chute, just in case. You will probably have to strap yourself onto the thing so you don't have any issues. And then eventually there'll be a finished version of it that is easy to get onto, easy to build yourself into, start up, take off, and you ain't got to worry about anything. It'll be like riding a motorcycle, but avoiding traffic altogether, as long as you don't run into a power line. But I assume eventually if something like that takes off, then there will be kind of some skyway limits, something GPS controlled that keeps you above any of the infrastructure, but below any low-flying aircraft, and get you from point A to point B with no issues. So there's a lot that goes into it. You've got, you would have a motorcycle helmet that would have a fixed GPS skyway, something that's projected onto the HUD of your helmet, so that it wouldn't matter which direction you turned your head, it would still be oriented in the direction of where the GPS skyway is located and the safe corridor passage. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm putting into it as far as design on the infrastructure side, because everybody wants a flying car, but they don't want to steer away from props. And I keep telling you, if you've got half the city with flying cars, half of them are going to have, helicopter launch pads, and they're developing these other cars with EDFs. Like I saw one concept that was 64 EDFs. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's great for redundance if something happens to it. But at $300,000, how does that help anybody? Except the rich. You still got the poor down on the street trying to ride their bikes where they got to go. I don't like that. I don't like that separation. I have not looked at Amazing DIY projects. I will have to check that out. Is that a YouTube channel? I don't know if it was Lilium. It might have been Lilium. I'm not sure. It's just a weird looking car. It's like you can only hold a pilot and 2 people. That's kind of... Okay, yeah, I'll check it out on YouTube. Thanks, Jeff. But yeah, it may have been Lilium. And the reason for it is because if they went bankrupt, it's because of the approach they had. First off, can you imagine how many amps you have to have available for a drone car that's pulling 64 EDFs, probably 120 on the millimeters, 60 to 80 amps per motor, probably more. Okay, can you imagine the heat from the power distribution board? I mean, my gosh, it's insane. A jet turbine of concrete. I got to see that one. Yeah, and I agree with that, Jeff. It's the same thing. They carry the same problems as helicopters. You have to have the landing pad, you have to have the hangar, you have to have everything else. So it's not a flying car. It's just another weird helicopter that can only hold 1, maybe 3 people if you're lucky, and they have to be anorexic or they're not even going to lift off, I want something that has the same footprint eventually as a standard size SUV, but allows you to ride on the road on wheels and can still take you over into a skyway. And it sounds crazy, but to most people, but you have off-ramps to get onto the city from the freeway. Well, what if you had off-ramps to get into the skyway? Right? So you have something you're driving. It's an electric car that's powered by hydrogen, not a whole bunch of batteries. You could do batteries if you wanted to for backup. I think hydrogen is the key as far as power density. And if you have, you get this off ramp off the freeway where you get into a queue to get into the Skyway because you're going to grandma's house in the mountains or whatever. And then you fly over to another main road, avoiding lots of traffic, lots of infrastructure that you'd normally have to traverse through. And then it's controlled mainly by the GPS hub, even though you can still control it yourself. And that kind of keeps you safe. So you have several means of control. You've got GPS guidance. You also have your hands on the wheel, and it's stable, it's flying. And once you touch down, you're on wheels. Those engines shut down. You go refill your hydrogen at your takeoff or stop points, and then you're back on the road, you know, going to grandma's. And you've saved yourself probably 5-6 hours of freeway traffic. So that's realistically the idea. And that is we have the GPS systems, we have the freeways, obviously. So minimal disruption to infrastructure, small additions, and then a Skyway system that could have a separate flight control system than we do for major airlines, because you're only flying within a certain cushion of space, about 200 feet. Not from the ground, but anywhere from like 200 feet to 400 feet. So you have 100 feet of distance. You're in a Skyway. You can't get out of that Skyway intentionally unless there's an emergency. Drogue chutes for backup if an engine fails, so on and so forth. Safety systems involved for accidents, just like any other vehicle. But integrating an SUV with a system like that, so you can go just, here's my off ramp, get off, top off the hydrogen, you know, get into the queue for the Skyway. Once you're cleared, you engage, you fly off. You can be hands off, you can be hands on. When you get to your point where you're supposed to land, you have to take control of the vehicle, or you will stay in hover. And then you have a controlled landing, descent, drive off the on ramp of wherever you're at, fuel up, charge up your backup batteries if you need to, grab some snacks. How it's, you know, and then you're in Tahoe, for example, you know, that kind of thing. So we're moving forward. He has arrived. PXD squared. That's the one I was waiting for. He's my test pilot. We're actually going to get the crash dummy outfit for him, including the helmet, just so everything looks authentic. So hydrogen gets hate because you are dealing with an entire infrastructure based on fossil fuels, which are making a lot of people rich, and it's not us. So yeah, politically, somebody's gonna poison my cranberry juice. But the point is, the idea is to make this so mainstream that they can't do anything to me. So, you know, it's like, I want to be out there so much with this idea that even Hillary Clinton is afraid to try and take me out. And that's a feat in itself. Yeah, it's looking good. Let me show you, PXD. Got the fan. You know about this part, which is our gears. But our capped stator casing turned out beautifully. Absolutely gorgeous. You're going to love this. You're going to laugh right now. I'm using the TPU shaft. Giggity. So it's going to dampen. Any vibrations will be dampened. Motor mount's done. It's going to index here, like so, when the carrier is finished being printed. Right now I'm printing my fan casing, which attaches to this part here. And then we're still like I said, I was telling everybody else, we're still going to be keeping this motor for testing because I'm not giving up on this. I just need to find a service that can print metal that actually knows what they're doing. And you know what? And I'm going to be honest with you. The only thing to come out of China that lasted more than 3 days was COVID-19. So I'm not surprised that this failed. And you would think, what are their engineers doing? What are their engineers doing? What do they do when they look at this and they go, I've already ground the shit out of this thing and taken a lot of information just to get that gap lower. And I'm going to have to do a lot more work, but I am going to make it work. And then we're going to push it on that fan. But how do you work for a place that 3D prints? And you know the offsets of your machine, and you're looking at this, and you're doing post-processing, and you're not even trying to fit shit together. And you send it out like this, where I have to do metal work on something I shouldn't have to do freaking metal work on because I already paid for it. It's done. I should just be able to use it, but no. PCB is not the way. Yeah. You know what? Since you mentioned that, I was looking really at the Pocket NC, and it's still like 11 thou, but it's going to be cheaper than a lot of other large CNC machines that I might use, and I can still do 5-axis with it. So, yeah, that'll work. Yeah, it's 10K. I thought it would be cheaper, but you know, they got to get their money. But it is a desktop CNC, so I can run that thing right at the end of the table over there. You guys can watch it as it's going. And I'll start doing the gears myself. They'll be dimensionally accurate because they're done in the USA. And I'll be doing these fans, this hub, these blades. And we'll alloy the whole thing, you know. I mean, it can handle this. It can handle a stock up to, I forget the dimensions, but it's a pretty big stock. I think it can handle this fan, even if it was full. It can handle this. I know this will fit in it. And I think it's just the tool chucks. You can get different chucks for it, and it'll actually, you know, it has no problem doing larger pieces. So, yeah. See, 12 by 18, that's perfect. That's perfect. I could do this whole fan on that. This whole engine on that. Motor mounts and all. And I could do it out of pretty much any alloy I wanted to. Aircraft grade aluminum preferably to start, but it is capable of steel, I believe. Just at a slower speed. Yeah. Yeah. 18-inch blades. Think about it. So you scale this up, and now you've got a monster machine. And the only thing you have to do to drive it is you use a step-up gear ratio and a high torque motor. So it doesn't have to spin very fast. Because we know as the engine gets bigger, the more air you're pushing, you don't need the higher RPMs. You need the torque in order to sustain the RPMs necessary for the size of that fan. So it's about math. Yeah. But this is a 190 kV and it runs this one just fine. So if I went with like a 50 kV, I could double the size of this motor, use a 4-to-1, which wouldn't be as high as 32,000 RPMs, but at 18 inches on the blades, you don't need 32,000 RPMs to have an effective EDF. And since this only drew at half throttle 11 amps, that's what I'm talking about. That was one of the breakthroughs that I made that really, really set this apart from other EDFs. Because even 70 millimeter EDFs you put in most planes, they're running 80 amps. You go full throttle, you're pushing 80 amps, 100 amps, 120 amps. I had this at half throttle at 15,000 RPMs, 11 amps at 48 volts. Radial flux motors. Yeah, but I wonder how much that would cost me for a radial flux motor. I'll try anything. You got one laying around? Send it my way. Any equipment? I don't care what it looks. I mean, if you got an engine that you're like, this is a big engine, I'll never use it, or you know, I want to help out or whatever, send it my way. I'm going to design something around it, and it's going to be beautiful. So, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It was less load, and I was doing a static thrust test. So, you know, we were pushing, I think half throttle, we were a little over 22 pounds. And I didn't get past half throttle. And it still was pushing 11 amps. You know, when I got closer to pushing it past 3/4 throttle, then it went up to 55 amps. Oh my goodness. Yeah, 435 kV motors would do it, or kilowatt motors would do it. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you're pushing amps like what I'm pushing right now and still getting the thrust that I was getting out of it, that battery is going to last a long time. It's going to last a very long time. I'm running basically two 2200 milliamp 70C LiPo batteries in series to get my 48 volts. That's a total of 4,400 milliamps. And in all of my testing, I have never run down the batteries before the gears stripped out. But even with the Stubby Fan V1, I could run it for 10 minutes at almost full RPMs. And it was beautiful. And that was off of, let's see, it was 10 minutes to 12 minutes. It was a 6,000 milliamp 22.2 volt battery. But I was pushing a lot of amps. I was pushing amps because of the direct drive I was using, because it was an 850 kV motor. Hydro. Speaking of hydro, I'll be right back. Inspiration time! Work, you stupid lighter. Whew. Some good shit. And of course, you got to have the tobacco pipe, because you got to have the good tobacco. Funny that I'm an ex-smoker and now I have a pipe for tobacco. Try not to inhale it too much, more just to satisfy the oral fixation of smoking cigarettes for 30 years. So, yeah. Yeah. Hello, dog mother. Once again, I suck at your smoky teeth. Oh, you gotta love it. So I try not to inhale it, but you know, not. It goes in my nose. It helps with the smoking for sure, and it's a lot cheaper because 6 ounces of tobacco in the pipe, that'll last me a month and a half roughly. So I'm actually proud of myself for that, because I didn't keep smoking. I stopped smoking cigarettes, and now I'm just kind of getting into the whole pipe tobacco thing, because it's much more aromatic and satisfying to do it that way, kind of like a cigar, where you're not really inhaling it, you're still getting the nicotine, and your lungs don't suffer as much. So that's the whole idea for me. Because I mean, I still have, you know, I'm gonna be 49 this month, and you know, my O2 is still 100 when I wake up. So you know, it drops down when I'm sleeping, and I don't have apnea, they said, to like 94. But I do get a heart rate drop of 22%, which is good. A resting heart rate of about 59 to 60, and an HRV of about 50. So I'm still fairly healthy for my age. Um, and I have no real problems except, what the infrastructure has done to us. Don't eat at Taco Bell. Why? Because it's not food. It's a drug. Gonna have to go. It's midnight in France. Oh my goodness, you're in France. I am like thrilled that people all over the world are seeing this, and I appreciate you being here. I hope you stick around and see more content in the future. And welcome to DPC. Join the Discord. It is on the channel page. And have a good night, Jeff. And thank you for all the information. You gave me a lot of good ideas. Great. Looking forward to seeing you there and sharing ideas. You have a wonderful evening. France. Never been there, but I am related to a lot of people there. Mainly, I did my ancestry thing, so it's like, good Lord, I must be a mutt. One of my grandfathers is Robert the Bruce. The Queen, I think it was Philippa of France. Cicely Neville. I think it was Edward Plantagenet, the Kingmaker. He's my grandfather. I found all kinds of stuff. In the indigenous Americas, I have the Montauk tribe in my blood. So I'm more Indian than Pocahontas and Congress. You know what I'm talking about. Elizabeth Warren. You know how she goes. Yeah, Jetpack. He said Jetpack, and I was like, I'm on it. Hey, let's do this. So it's been a pretty good live so far. What time is it? One of my kids is at work. They know the way home. I'm just kidding. I'm playing. He's got like a couple hours left. Oh, man. Yeah, the twins. That's exactly it. Because I see some of those like gas-powered or kerosene-powered turbines. And I'm thinking, I don't like the idea of strapping those on my arm, with like fuel going through them and stuff. I'd rather have just a battery. And it works out really well. But the twins would be a good idea. And then you've got a couple on your back. And you're good to go. Go full Iron Man with a 3D printed engine, you know what I mean? Right. Because, I'd rather have fuel be out of the picture completely when it comes to something that's going to be strapped directly to a human body. Hydrogen, of course, for something that you get into or onto, because then there are safety measures you can put in place to keep yourself safe. And in the manufacturer, I do not plan on skimping on safety measures and backup measures for flight. So, yeah, that being said, the jetpack, very true. You're hauling a lot of kerosene. If something goes up, you are a flying Roman candle. Yeah. Yep, under plates, just like a compact. Yeah, because when I was carrying the radio, in my unit, I had the same thing. We would actually put level 4 plates behind them, just against my back, just to make sure that, you know, even if the plates on the carrier for the radio were damaged, it still wouldn't hurt me. Yep, I remember that. That's the easiest way to get the nickname the Roach, is when you have 2 big ass antennas off your back. You're 6'4", you're carrying all the gear and all the weight. They expect you to go in first because you're going to catch more rounds than the other people. And I did. But you know what? It was all worth it in the end. Made it home, got married, have a family. Hole in my leg, shrapnel in my arm. I still have a bullet shrapnel in my right arm and a large scar from where some metal shrapnel hit me in my left forearm from an RPG. But hey, you know, you do what you do. And don't worry, we were fair about the situation. We returned fire and killed all of them. So, yeah. But I'll tell you one thing. Getting shot, at first, you're like, what just happened? Who hit my leg? And because it almost took my leg out from underneath me. And then it's only a few seconds later that you realize, oh, there's pain there. Oh, that's hot. And you're like, wow. Then you look down, you're like, ah, crap. Well, at least my knee and my lower leg is still attached, so I got a chance here. Yeah. So, yeah. That was fun. Still kept fighting, though. I mean, we had no choice until we could get, you know, an evac out of there. And I'm just grateful that I'm home. Although sometimes I miss war. And I keep thinking to myself, well, I'll look at the way the U.S. is going. We'll have our own war soon. I've been through a few things, yeah. Spent my entire you know what? I'm surprised I'm even working with electric motors. Because when I was a child, you know, you've heard this story before. Stop me if you have. My grandma lived in a motorhome. I was raised by my grandma and my mom. My mom was disabled, and I had no father in the house. So, like, my grandma wanted to travel, so she sells the house and buys a motorhome, right? She buys a motorhome so we can travel, and then things get too expensive. She can't do it anymore. So we're like parking lot to parking lot living, right? So I got to see my entire childhood, my entire like teenage years pass me by, and I watched everybody else live their lives. And then I'd have to kind of go in, and I would make friends with people like in Pizza Hut. You guys remember Pizza Hut back in the day, right? The breadsticks. So we'd go in there, and we played Dungeons and Dragons, right? All of the books, right? Where you're making your own central casting on your character sheet, stuff like that. And we'd go in there, and there'd be one manager who liked D&D. So we'd close down Pizza Hut when it was closed. We'd start making breadsticks, getting the marinara out, having some sodas. We'd play D&D all night long. And then what I did is, when I wasn't doing that, I was at McDonald's with a really nice manager. And I was young, probably 13, 14 years old. And, I'm basically homeless in a sense. And she would allow, and I was broke. We were always broke. And back then, you could get a hamburger for 25 cents and a coffee for 15 cents. And I would just refill the coffee over and over again throughout the day. And I drank coffee all day long. But at the end of the day, she would let me tally up the sales. And then what would happen is, back then, everything was on the racks. So when you ordered something, they didn't make it and give it to you. It was on the racks, and they just gave it to you. And they kind of somehow switched away from that, which was the whole kind of idea behind like McDonald's to begin with. which was you order it and it's already ready to go and you're out the door, to making it as you order it. So now they're no better than anybody else. So, but back then it was all on the racks, and there'd be a lot left over right after they closed. So I would do the books, she would give me the food, and I'd be on my way. Couldn't afford soda, so I took carbonated water, which was free, and I took sweetener and lemon wedges, which you got for free, and I put that in the drink, and I made my own kind of lemon soda to go along with the burgers I'd earned that night. So, but the problem with, the point I was getting to with the motorhome was there was a problem with the ground in the electrical system. So when you plugged it up to a 220, like at like my cousin's house or something, we'd go over there and visit and then plug it up to 220 and stay there for like a week or two. Every time I grabbed the door handle, I was electrocuted. And I've been and I've said this before, I've been electrocuted so many times, I could have satisfied the death penalty in 7 times over in most states. But I just, it gave me a phobia of even static electricity. I hate static electricity. Like, you get clothes out of the dryer and the popping and the cracking. I developed a phobia out of that. And now here I am using high-powered electrical motors to create engines. I'm fighting my fears, man. I'm getting through it. Why is it when I start talking about me, the viewers go down? I don't get that. Am I that boring? You know? I mean, YouTube algorithms. I'm sorry I don't have a great set of tits to show everybody. But it's just ridiculous. You know? It's ridiculous what gets views and what doesn't. No, it's just life, man. Ain't about being a trooper. It's just, I mean, technically I was a trooper, you know, if you want to call me that. But it's just, it was life. It was the cards I was dealt, you know. My grandma couldn't afford a mechanic to work on these things, so I learned how to work on engines. I'm changing brakes underneath an 11,000-pound motorhome at 11 years old. You know, and then my grandma has a car that she gets while she's at my cousin's house. And it was an old 76 like Mercedes 280 SE or something like that. And I don't remember how she got it, but basically now there's only one driver, and it's my grandma. And we have to leave because we're going somewhere else. So I'm sitting on a phone book, driving a car behind my grandma in the motorhome at 11 years old. And that's when I first started driving, because we had to get the car with us somehow. She didn't have a tow hitch or a dolly and didn't have the money for that. So I drove. And that got me really into driving, you know. And then I learned how to build engines and work on cars because we couldn't afford a mechanic. So we could afford a part, but we couldn't afford a mechanic. So I learned as I went. And now I can rebuild engines, build hot rods, all kind of stuff. I just don't want to do it now because now I'm to the age where I want somebody else to do it. And I just want to drive the damn thing. Nope, this is more of my passion right here. And that's what I want to do. I want to build these fans. I want to, give them to the people so they can have some fun, do what they want to do with it. I'm not greedy. I don't ask for a lot. If people can donate, they can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee site. I put all that right back into my supplies for this right here for you guys. I just wish, all of my subscribers here. Right now I'm at 1,500 something, 1,550. And if I could get everybody to donate what is it? Let's do the math. How much would they have to donate for me to get the Pocket CNC? How many coffees would each subscriber have to buy? 5, 10 coffees? And I could get that Pocket CNC right there, and it wouldn't be mine. It'd be yours. It'd be yours. And if you sent me an STL and said, dude, could you do this for me? I'd say, okay, I'll pick up the aluminum stock. We'll cut that out for you, and I'll send it to you. I'll do my own printing service. And if it don't work for you, or if something's off, we'll do it again, and you'll get it, because I'll guarantee the work. Not like this Chinese stuff where I can't. We try contacting somebody right now about that shit. PCB way. That ain't gonna work. We'll do it in the USA. I'll manufacture the parts, and it'll be done on a machine that all of you own. So you're entitled to the parts that come off. If you send me a file, I'll buy the stock. I buy the stock, cut your parts. You know, you send me the file, the STL or the step file or the IGS, whatever. Run the tool path, get everything done, get on the phone with you guys, video call, do what you got to do to get everything perfect for what you want done on your project. I start cutting it, then I wrap it up, and after we check it, the dimensions and make sure everything's perfect, and then we send it to you. I mean, that would be ideally the best situation if I got a crowd-funded machine like that. Because I wouldn't expect something from you guys without giving something back. That's not how I am. Hell, I wouldn't expect something back if I gave you something. I'm broke, and I know people in this town that I live in constantly giving money to, just because I see them and I feel bad, and they either want to get, you know, they're smokers and they don't have any cigarettes. I know how that was, you know, and I was like, damn. So I'll give them $20 or whatever. And I was like, I can't afford that. That's my gas money. But you know what? I survive on faith. Faith is a really big part of my life. And it's got me to where I'm at now. You know? You guys, I mean, PXD, he remembers what the garage looked like before I got to this point. Remember the old garage? Same garage. New look. A brand new look. Everyone, stand up and salute the flag. I don't know why I did that sounding Chinese. Let's try that again. I went full Shogun right there. I'm not sure why. I don't know. It's one of my personalities. Yeah, I remember, man. I was like, you walk out my garage, you're like, how is this guy working in this? That on an Ender 3. And I'm like, I got to do something. So, and you're going to love this. You're going to love this. This is how I got all this done. This table is from a friend of mine, so I don't get to keep it. So is the toolbox. I'll get my own eventually. It's on loan. He was very nice to let me use it. And the MPCNC back there that we built, I 3D printed that, built that. But he bought all the parts for it, but he doesn't have room for it right now, so I'm using it for my projects. So like I literally own nothing, you know, except what I'm making. And it's a situation where eventually I want to be able to sustain myself enough to get the machines I need to make this really way more productive. But that old garage, it was an embarrassment. I was here 8 years and just wasn't doing anything because I was just trying to survive until, you know, my income could catch up to basic living, which it still hasn't done, but I've managed. I mean, I went into Dollar General, man, and I told them, I said, you know what, you guys, I know you, I live in the same town as you, but if I ever borrow anything from your store, don't take it personal because I got a family to feed. You know? I'll pay it back when I can. And they laugh about it. Well, I've got, pockets full of eggs and, I'm kidding. I don't take anything from it. I don't do that kind of stuff. I'll make my own way, and I'll make sure my family's taken care of, make sure they're fed, make sure they're housed, make sure they're warm, make sure they're taken care of. Even if I miss out on a meal, who cares? I was in the military. I can miss out on a meal. But right now, I'm going to enjoy a Hostess Twinkie because that's what someone like me would do right now. Because I happen to have a Hostess Twinkie. I'm not entirely sure how old it is. But we all know about Twinkies, right? They never go bad. And yes, everyone's like, you're eating another Twinkie? You had one earlier. I'm like, you know what? But I haven't had breakfast. I'm like, well, that's not a healthy breakfast. It is when you have low blood sugar. I'm telling you. Yes, you will meet several of my personalities. They all agree that they want to meet you. I agree with you, Sags. I really do. But you got to blame it on the generation, There's some smart, intellectual kids out there that are interested in this kind of thing. They're at an age where they're going into the workforce or going into college. And if this inspires anyone to go this route and study the propulsion or try to make things better for the world, great. I've done my job. But there's also people out there, and I've said it before, who have some kind of obsession with using Gorilla Glue as a hair product. And it's those people that piss me off, because they'll get 21 million views on probably one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that one lady went on TV. She had an interview with, like, come on, man. That's like somebody shooting themselves in the foot and going, you know what? I need to be on TV and do a short on this. Oh no, look what happened. She put Gorilla Glue in it. Do you know how? You gotta know how to read. I mean, you have to at least know that because you drove to the store. I mean, sorry, it's just exacerbating the way to have to compete with that. Oh yeah, don't even get me started on the chicks. All they gotta do is throw out a smile and show enough cleavage, and then YouTube goes, ooh, we can exploit this. So they're neck deep in exploiting women and then putting up ads about women's rights. It's a fucking joke. Here I am trying to do real science, real creativity, and I mean, and that's what they do in China. When they're doing videos, do you see them doing stupid shit like we do in America? No. We see people in America doing stupid shit and getting huge audiences out of it. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If that's the kind of audience that people want, then what kind of productivity are you going to get out of that when it comes to whatever it is you're filming or what you're trying to do? Eventually, that YouTube money's going to dry up. They're going to toss you out. It's just like in Hollywood. Famous actresses, they look pretty, they get on screen, but the moment they get a wrinkle, their shit's out the door. Then where are you? You're in a $30 million home you can't afford to pay for. Now you got to sell it. And now you're living on the coast of Florida in a studio apartment thinking you made it in life. And as Stewie Griffin would say, I spit in your mouth while you sleep. I'm telling you, I just... Jumping off the Hoover, that'll get us there. Let's make sure the fans can slow you down enough first, okay? Then we'll do an untethered air bungee. There you go. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get somebody hurt. We'll wrap you in bubble wrap. That way it contains all your fluids. So, yeah, we get the views. How many more views did I get on the videos where I blew up a fan? Yeah, or one exploded, or an ESC burned out. I put that out there, and you're like, you remember when I put out the javelin video, and I put the picture of the lady's bust on there, and I put the javelin in her cleavage with Photoshop? And that got so many views because people were like, I don't know how you came across my screen, but here you are, and now I'm here for the content. I was like, but I don't want to have to do that every time. You would think that this would be enough to intrigue someone into saying, wow, what's going on there? I tell you guys. I tell you. Is someone pulling up in my driveway? I hate this place. I'll be right back. Who is that out there?
Oh.
Who's out there? It sounds like the right damn driveway.
There's a black car that I think it's the neighbor.
Oh, okay.
Just busts up the garage with a gun.
Well, no, it's just I had problems with somebody yesterday on the property. I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay. Anyway, nothing to be alarmed about. No, somebody was getting belligerent with me yesterday, so I had to flashbang them. I really wish the camera recorded longer outside because I'd love to show you guys that stuff. I did put out a video though where I caught somebody in the building at one point. It's called Idiots in Training, and it's on my channel. Man, I have not been off alert status since I got out of the Army. All my meals I eat in under 2 minutes. It hasn't stopped. That's just my .308 airsoft rifle. Oh yeah, I've got plenty of threats here, but I had people walk up on me when I'm out there with the other rifle. You know, they don't, they change their mind real quick. You'd be amazed at how much a 37 millimeter sandbag feels. You know, they got the idea. They went and ripped down one of my cameras, and then when I flashbanged them, it landed right next to their feet. It went off. And they all, and three of them all coming across the street. They're all, what the F, bro? And like, I'm standing out there in the street with my rifle, reloaded with that, another 37 mil ready to go. And what do? Oh, we ain't having none of that. We're just going to go on. I'm like, you ripped down my cameras, bitch. Where is it? You know, that shit cost me money. Trying to secure that property. And it's like, ugh, the pain in the ass. You know, they're all cocky till you got a freaking big-ass rifle in their face. You know what I mean? I mean, I'd go out there by myself. I usually use my sword, but it's a family heirloom. So I don't want to... No decapitations today. And yes, that was genuine disappointment, you heard. Oh, you know what I'm waiting for? Someone to break in here. Because I got one husky that's going to welcome me in because he's kind of a derpy husky. Very, you know how huskies are. They just scream like idiots. But they're beautiful dogs and they're fun. The other one is slightly husky and more coyote. She doesn't like anyone. So while she's gnawing on your ass, I'll be loading up the rifle. And he's going to be like, I give up, call 911. I'm like, we don't call 911 around here. Why do you think the weed grows so fast in my backyard? Your contribution will not be forgotten. That's the way you got to handle shit. And if I park in San Francisco and get another warning from like one of those off meter maids, like, roll down your windows so they don't break them. I'm like, ma'am, if they break my windows, you're calling a meat wagon. That's all I'm saying. So go ahead. I got a sticker on the back of my car that says veteran. If that isn't enough to at least get some respect, even from the thugs trying to get their whatever out of the back of my car, then, you know, sorry. You're going to catch a mag, and I'll dump it in less than 2 seconds. I don't give a shit. You know, you want to steal from me on my private property? I am entitled to defend myself and my property. And my family. So if you come up to me threatening, if you're even on my lawn, you know, find some daisies there you can push up because you're going to be here for a while. I don't give a shit what they say. I don't care about the freaking laws. I can give a fuck less. And it's because I follow constitutional law. Because what have the Democrats been barking about this whole fucking time? Constitutional law. Trump's breaking constitutional law. Well, yeah, guess what, bitch? The Second Amendment's constitutional law. And we have a First Amendment that says we can say whatever we want about it. And the gun, so you can't tell us to shut up. That's all there is to it. So yeah, when I park my car anywhere in San Francisco, if I have to, which I can't see any reason why I'd really have to go there, because that's like driving to a restroom that hasn't been flushed yet. You know, I'm sure it's beautiful for the rich, but you know, I think Pelosi, doesn't she live there? And they were like, some people were like shitting in her driveway and stuff like that. That's funny. You get what you deserve, you know. You know, she goes, I represent my constituents. Well, carry some toilet paper then, because they all love you. I don't get it, you know. It's kind of funny how all the corruption that they have found, the only people who are angry about it are the people who are getting the kickbacks. You know who was getting paid because they were pissed? Fuck them. This was a republic. It was founded as a republic. It is a republic. It will remain a republic. And if they don't like that, we're more than happy for another civil war. More than happy. It's not like we're not going to know where you are. You're going to all be huddled in your gun-free zones. You know, sipping on your non-fat mocha freaking lattes. Fucking soy boys crying in the corner with their man buns. And like, I'm not into this, but you got baristas stressing over it and stuff like that. I gotta make another coffee. I can't handle it. Give me a fucking break. They're complaining about their work shifts, making $25, $30 an hour doing that shit. Making coffee. I was lumping trucks at DSI when I was a teenager. 30,000 cases, cold storage warehouse, $20 a truck, and you had to do it in less than an hour. No one knows anything about real work anymore. And shit, then you're waiting in the freaking break room just for them to call you from the main office and say, yep, it's your turn to do a truck. Hoping to get paid, hoping to go home with at least 20, 40 bucks that night so you can get groceries. You know? But all those things taught me really valuable lessons. They taught me about survival. They taught me about, you know, dealing with the cards I'm dealt, you know, and that's fine. You know, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. When you can't find, if food stops going to the stores, it literally is appalling to me that if food stops going to stores through our current infrastructure, that people will starve to death. That is fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. You don't know how to fish. You don't know how to hunt. You don't know how to forage. You go out and pick 2 leaves and die from toxins because you don't even know what to look for. Everybody's been conditioned to be supplied by infrastructure. And if you can't get out of that, when the system fails, and it probably will, unless we can stay in control, and if the system fails, you all starve to death. Because you ain't got, you look at a fishing pole and go, what's that? Or if you can't get a fishing pole, it's like get a rope, sharpen a hook out of a piece of metal out of a bobby pin or a paper clip. Put a fake rubber worm on something bright on the end of the cut, drop it in the water, catch a damn fish. What is wrong with people? Well, if I can't get it from a store, I'm not going to buy it. Well, congratulations. You'll be one of the first ones to go. See, I've strategically positioned myself in an area where I have multiple escape routes to altitude in areas that I'm very familiar with in the mountains. That I can take my family, that I know has water tanks, is next to a fresh stream, and is got trout like crazy, you know. And it's like, if we ever got to leave town because it gets sketchy, you know, I'd have to be out of ammo first. Because I'm not going to give up what I got. And it's because they say, you're going to evacuate. This is going on. That's going on. You know? Screw that. I ain't afraid of anybody. Got no reason to be. Mainly because I'm probably the guy they talk about on TV. And he's like, the guy in the dark alley. Who to be afraid of? I'll go in the dark alley. I don't care. No more calls? Are you all done? You shutting down the answering service? Oh, 2 points. Nice. Cool. Hey, look at this. 6 people. I mean, I don't know how accurate this is live. 6 people watching right now. 6. Does this show different on somebody else? Kobe. Now it's 5. No, I don't get it personally. You would think that this kind of thing would be interesting. Or at least my rants would be somewhat entertaining. Hold on a second. Answering a text. Yes, I will. I'm doing a live at the moment if you want to jump on and look. But that's what I'm talking about. When you're not here. Okay, sorry. I've got some more. I got more in. How many rants we got today? How many indeed, right? Oh, I don't know if my printer's done yet. But fan casing, index, carrier, the carbon fiber rods I have to wait for because they sent me, which ones did they send me? I needed 4mm, and they didn't send me 4mm, they sent me 1 by 400mm. What am I going to use these for? I'll find something though. I almost thought about, because I have old printer rails. See, I keep most of this stuff. Any of my old ANET printers, you know, they were absolute garbage. But they were how I learned how to manually repair 3D printers. So if anything happens with my Bamboo Lab, I know exactly what to do to fix it mechanically. So I have plenty of experience in that. But I do have, I can find it in here, a carbon steel rod. It's the carbon steel guide rods. I think they're 8 or 10mm, probably 10. I was thinking, since I'm using a high heat and Teflon paste for lubrication, that I forego bearings altogether. Because once you get to a point where this is CNC'd in metal, what you're going to want is basically precision metal rods going through these gears rather than bearings. Because the bearings can fail, and if you're using a bearing rod, like a carbon steel rod, then you're basically doing the same thing effectively. It's a bearing. It just has to be precise on its machining. And if it's precise, then a carbon steel rod will work perfect as the support for that gear. But because it's still in the 3D printing phase, I have to use these 10mm bearings and 4mm carbon fiber rods that are attached to the carrier. And these will go all the way through, you know, into the system. And I'll put like 5 or 6 down there just so it's, you know, tough enough. And the carrier will go down into that. The carrier did print a 1-wall thick leg that goes through there, but that was to accommodate the carbon fiber rod and the gap between that rod and the inside of this bearing. The great part about it is if it ends up being that the printer printed that because it was in the model and it's not needed because the interior of this is 4 and the carbon fiber rods that I get are actually 4 instead of they just say 4 and they're not 4. And they fit in the bearings perfectly, then on the end of the carrier, because it's only 1 wall thickness, you can just snap it off. Then slide the carbon fiber rod through, and that goes all the way through to the top of the carrier that holds this collet, which directly interfaces with the motor's shaft. Giggity. So that's going to give us the rigidity we need to spin these gears, and of course they're longer gears, so they're the same width as this casing. So there's a lot of contact points, and that's going to give us our rigidity in this build. That's going to give us our strength in the carrier group. So I only foresee problems with the carrier and the interface between the carrier leg and the carrier if I hadn't put a carbon fiber rod that goes all the way through to the top and then down in all the way through. But I made sure the rod goes all the way up, so there's no separation or chance of separation of the leg from the actual carrier group and the leg. So that was one of the main reasons for the carbon fiber rod that went all the way through. So, yeah. You can see those bearings just Right in there. And that's what I like about PETG. It's way more dimensionally accurate than PLA. And I didn't have to make very many tolerances for this. And then, of course, PXD squared's favorite part, the TPU dampening shaft. It's going to work out beautifully. And it's going to be a trip to watch spin, I think. What do you think? Is that going to be cool to watch or what? I'm wondering what it's going to look like at 10,000 RPMs. That's mesmerizing. You will all follow DPC and share with everyone. You're being hypnotized right now. And I'm not even sure what accent this is. It's an amalgamation of something. Subscribe, comment, share. Or the crooked man comes forth and rings the crooked bell, and thus his crooked soul spirals into a crooked hell. So subscribe. Share with friends. It's better for your safety. I'm playing. You guys are fun. I could just sit here and stare at my work and talk to you guys forever. You guys are like the best support group ever. You should be paid for your therapeutic uses. I know what really confuses people is like, well, I think one of the lives I did, because I do a lot of voices, you probably can tell. It's like I'll start a stream. And I may do this again in the future just to freak everybody out. Like, put some like foliage and moss all over my desk. And some old stones from like Ireland or something like that. Scotland. Be like, welcome to DBC. We relocate us for a little bit. And you'll go, excuse me, I've got to go change my kilt because it isn't long enough to hide my sack. I'll return shortly. Enjoy watching the moss grow. Everyone's, hey, that was Shrek, bitch. I wasn't Scottish or Irish, that was Shrek. Okay, spin up. Yes, let's get back to business. I have a few small parts to print, and then the next live that I do, which will probably be in the next day and a half, I will be assembling the fan live, hooking up the motor live, mounting it to the rig live, spinning it up live. So you can all see it from its parts to its finished product to its spin up, all in the same live video. And all three of you will enjoy it. So that's what's going to happen. That's the plan. So a couple of days, you will see a spin up. It's going to be exciting. A taste on the gears and motor. I don't know what that means. Did you mean a test on the gear and motors? Or just, okay. Well, either way, the point is, the reason why I haven't fully assembled anything yet is because I want you guys to see how I do it, you know, how it all goes together. The only thing I did was attach this shaft to the fan and make sure that it's centered up and ready to go, you know. So I'll check clearances, I'll check blade wobble, make sure it's not, you know, off center, things like that. So the easiest way to do that is like put it in here. Put this in here. Looks pretty good. So yeah. Totally stable. No. But yeah. Hour and 36 minutes. Almost time to go get the kid from work. So what I'll do is I will wrap this up. And we will basically, I will see you, I'll put out a short if anybody sees it. What do they see first? Shorts or videos? I try to use like the For You page to try and get the info out there so people can see it if they're interested. And, it has to be in short spurts though, anything over 10 seconds, and they're like, scroll. So you got to start off in the first second with something epically cool looking. And then they'll stick around just long enough to get the information. So, this new generation, while I wish them the best, they have an attention span of a fucking goldfish. So, but I want to make this for future generations. So I may be doing myself. Yeah. So be prepared for that. I'll do shorts on the parts that are coming off the printer. And then I will give you an update on when we're doing the live for assembly and spin up. Everything's ready to go. I have all the hardware, have everything I need, except for the carbon fiber rods, which is an Amazon order, so it'll be here, in a day. As long as my brother ordered it already. I'm hoping he did because I'm broke. So with that, I will wrap up this live, and then we will see you again real soon. Be looking for the short so that you have an indication of when the next live is to see this assembly and spin up. And make sure that if you're new, you're not only subscribed, but you got the bell clicked so you get notified. And join the Discord if that's easier for you. Join the Discord so that you can be notified even quicker when a video is going to go live or a spin up is going to go live. Like I said, now I have 2 fans, so I'm going to modify that and probably hook it up to the 650. I don't know. We're going to do something with it. But we're going to run some planetaries through it and see what happens. I'll probably just print another set of planetaries out of the PETG so we can run this. We'll run this for fun. See how far it goes on the PETG. Again. Maybe RPM up fast and see what happens instead of slow and letting the heat build up. But I don't know what that is. What is WC3? Yeah, we had 30. At one point it was over 40, but I don't know. Maybe they get bored because they're not seeing action on this end. But most of you know what I'm here to discuss and what you're seeing as far as the stages that I'm going through. And I think that's really the main issue, because people, like I said, they want to jump in and get instant gratification just like that. Well, sorry, it ain't gonna happen that way. It's that buildup, my channel is not a hooker. It's a romantic. So you're going to have to wait for the climax. All right? Well, I massage you into it. So that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will give you a short update soon on the live. You'll have plenty of notice, and hopefully enough people see it so that they are here to watch that spin up. Because if they miss that, they're lost, right? So you all have a good day. I've got some kids I got to pick up before somebody else does. And I will talk to you next time. And from everyone here at DPC, which is mainly just me and PXD, and sometimes Spider when he's, all there. We love you. We will see you soon. Thank you for all your support. Love you all.